Hey Tim, look at this.
Needs work.
Hey Tim, how about this?
Still needs work.
Darn it. How about this?
Nice, high five.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
My name's Tim,
And my name's Michael.
and you're watching TMI.
That's the Tim and Michael Information Show. Hopefully I got the squeeze better on that because I realize online there's a little bit of a delay. And so I'm like, oh, if I can speak a little bit ahead of him, hopefully it'll sound right.
I guess
How
we'll
are
find
you
out in
doing,
post,
my
right?
friend?
I am doing
Yeah.
I'm doing so well. Again, not spending a lot of time by myself these days, as we all are. So very nice to be able to hop on with a friend, especially this friend here, who I've had so many good conversations with publicly, as it were, if we can accurately describe it that way. And looking forward to where this conversation takes us. And how about yourself?
Doing good. Word is well and good together is what that is.
You're doing wood.
Yeah, and I know that in the midst of everything, I've been telling everybody that personally, even when I was working a lot last year for 2019, this is just an emotionally better year for me, 2020, as far as me finding inner peace and that sort of happiness. And I know that you and I are in two different very positions of being furloughed from your job and still working your job during a pandemic. So you're still working, correct?
I am, yes. My company, I work for a civil engineering firm, and we do, obviously we do a lot of highway work and government work, and if there's going to be a recession, working for the government's probably your best bet. So we're continuing to chug along, and very, very grateful for that. So yeah, been just working from home and enjoying the 2-foot commute from my bed to my desk, and it's great.
How is the setup from working from home? Was that a hurdle to set up? Was that hard to do? Was it easy to put together?
Yeah, I mean, I had already been equipped to work from home if absolutely necessary. My job has some long hours sometimes, so I have a laptop. It's set up to the company network. So basically, yeah, I just sat down, opened up my laptop, and jumped right in. In fact, I even started working from home a little ahead of the rest of the company, because I had a little bit of a spring fever going around, and my boss said, just work from home today, don't come into the office. And when I was ready to come back, they're like, hey, everyone's working from home now, so just keep doing what you're doing. So
well, I'm sorry to hear that you got a little bit of a fever, but I'm happy to see that, at least from what I can tell, you seem healthy.
yeah, it's nothing terrible, obviously, and honestly, it may have even just been allergies. I have grass allergies and what have you that crop up during the springtime. So, of course, those also produce some of the
crop up
coronavirus. So, yeah, exactly. So, normally nothing.
Well, good for you on still working. My goodness,
Yeah.
I can only imagine, because everyone's got different levels of how they're handling this. My job's furloughed until further notice, so we'll see what happens there with the theme park business.
Yeah, it looks like things are slowly starting to pick back up again. Shanghai Disney opened, and theme parks in Florida are starting to open. So it looks like we're going to...
Universal, I heard, opened pretty recently, right?
Yes, they opened, I think, just a couple of days ago over in Orlando, and had a lot of the same stuff. I still track the theme park industry pretty closely, so I noticed they had a lot of the same protocol set up as Shanghai, with the markers on the ground saying, stand here, be spaced 6 feet apart, the sanitation or the hand sanitizer everywhere. Honestly, just a lot of the same stuff we're seeing going to Trader Joe's or what have you. So that's theme park life now. Welcome to 2020.
That's a whole other video, isn't it? Whether we're ready or not.
That too. That's just been the ongoing discussion of the year, honestly. So yeah.
Unless we want to talk about that now or to another video, that's up to you.
Yeah. Why not? We're on the subject, and I think, again, this is a unique time to hear about kind of this position
Okay.
and where you came from. So,
Well, this is great too because for whoever watches this, whether it's friends or colleagues, strangers, or even just you and me 5 years from now, 10 years from now, however long it's going to be,
Right.
I think it's always a little bit behind the scenes. I love how we start talking about one subject, but oftentimes we find ourselves tangenting into 3 other subjects.
It's true.
And
It's very true.
remember, everybody, for your artistic approaches, sometimes your first initial rough draft may not be the thing that you end up going with. So while we're talking about it organically, I'm going to stand here and say, I don't think we're ready to open theme parks yet.
Yeah, I think we're getting there, but I think there's a baby steps approach to be taken here. We've had 2 months to kind of grapple with the pandemic and figure out, okay, what are some best practices, what's working, what's not working. And down here in Orange County, a lot of the restaurants are starting to reopen, and I was able to go out to eat to a place in Fashion Island on Memorial Day. Went out with some friends for a hike, and we found a place with patio seating. So we're like, okay, good. We can set aside, not be too close to people, and it was definitely different. It actually felt like visiting a theme park, not because it was immersive or something, but a lot of the protocols you have at theme parks that you don't have elsewhere were put into place at this restaurant. So wait here at the line, wait till we call you forward. And one at a time, you're going to be at this spot right over here. And it was much more directed than the usual restaurant experience. But we were still able to have a good meal, and we felt pretty safe about doing it. So I think as people continue to experiment with what's safe, and maybe experiment's a bad word, because in the experiment, we, the populace, are the guinea pigs. That's sobering.
There's no other way to do this than with human experimentations. I need human subjects for my experiments.
Which means you're loving the landscape right now, you and your dark side.
Well, I mean, that's the light. Are you kidding? That's the sun out. That's what that is.
This is what it looks like in LA County right now. Yeah. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I just took down the wall. I said, nah, let's get rid of it. In talking about some of the theme parks reopening, I think I can safely say that I wouldn't feel comfortable returning to work as a theme park employee until I heard that there were 0, and I mean absolutely 0 cases reported, but I feel like there's this big push that the companies have to want to open up again. And I get it. You want to make sure that you keep your business. And I don't know how much money a company is losing right now. I don't have those numbers, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, especially something like the Disney company, who owns all these subsidiaries and has movies, television, theme parks, consumer products, all these different divisions, and kind of hedges in case something happens. And then a lot of that went away pretty quickly overnight. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where either Disneyland or Disney World shut down for more than a couple of days in an emergency state. And now we have had up until recently, every single resort, all 6 of them across the world in 3 continents, shut down for multiple months. And most of them still are shut down. And it's...
when that all happened, it's funny because there was a press release that said that Knott's was going to remain open. But it's interesting to see how in an event like this, it is a day by day, if not hour by hour, developing case. Because then later on, I remember a bunch of friends reposting and saying, that's right, because, not being afraid or whatever it was that I'm sugarcoating their words. Let's just say that. Right. And then later on, Knott's released another, announcement saying that we're going to be actually closed for a couple weeks, but then a couple weeks, there was another one that said we're actually going to be closed until another month. And then there was another release that came out that said, we are closed until further notice, without a date attached to it. So, it is one of those, like, I think if we're going through the stages of grief, isn't the first one denial?
I think so. It's somewhere.
So let's say that we're all going through these stages together, right? We love theme parks. I mean, you and I love theme parks. You and I sat down on our computers and did a Google Map comparison of theme parks, like we were talking about land layouts and everything. We were designing our own theme park for a little bit. And I get it that we all love it and we're passionate about it and we just want to get back to it. But I think there was a lot of denial in the beginning, and there's still a lot of denial for people that just don't want this thing to be happening because they just want to get back to the thing that they love.
Yeah. And I think there are some things that can re-enter the economy with some level of safe practices and measures and what have you. And restaurants seem to be one of them. But what about something like concerts or sporting events with live audiences? I mean, you just think about the mosh pit in the center of a concert. There's just social distancing going to happen. I mean, can you even get enough people to fill the seats while still spacing them out to justify bringing somebody to town?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the governor said that all concerts were postponed until fall of 2021, something like that. And he's talking about the ones that are 1,000 pluses,
Yeah.
Like I could have sworn I heard that, and it was said a while ago, so it's kind of hard for me to remember. But as a musician over here, I had a gig that was supposed to go up with the band with Reminisce on the 20th of March, and that was like the week that everything started to topple down completely. And so we got the call from our promoter, who said that he got the call from Live Nation, who owns House of Blues, and so it came from up there that we couldn't have the show. And so I don't know when we're going to even be able to have anything like that again, even though we were going to be in the Parish Room, which is the smaller room at the new House of Blues. It's really intimate. I love that space. I've seen lots of great people there. But my goodness, like, I don't know even when the little guy like me with my, band is going to get a chance to perform again. So
I think that's the other interesting piece of this is that I remember when all the closures started happening and the cancellations started happening, and the theme parks and these sporting events got canceled ahead of anything from the government. In fact, I think what really clued you into the fact that something big was about to break on us was when the NBA suspended its entire season when one of their players got it, and then within 24 hours, both Disneyland and Universal Studios had announced, we're closing as well, and there had been no stay-at-home order or anything issued from the government. So, I mean, you mentioned how these companies are losing all this money in the wake of this, and I think that's when you realize just how big. We'd never seen anything like this pandemic before, and that's when I realized just how big this was, when the company was voluntarily shutting its gates to make sure people didn't spread the contagion.
I think that says something about the companies realizing that they want to protect their company as much as possible, right? And even before it was a state order thing, they are in the business of having thousands upon thousands of people come through their gates on a daily, if not hourly basis.
Yeah.
So of course I commend them on looking at the situation and going, this needs to stop. Though ironically, and I don't know how well you recall this film, if you did see it, it's interesting how the NBA was pretty much pulling a page from Space Jam.
That's actually what I've never seen, believe it or not.
Well, go back and find it and look at it. It's, you know what? It's one of the greatest films for a lot of reasons. Not only does it do the live action cartoon very, very well, I think before that, Roger Rabbit. I mean, Roger Rabbit's my favorite film, right? But like after that, I have to say that Space Jam is like the second best like live action, cartoon crossover. It is just done so well, and I love so much of the camera work in it, and taking an actor like Michael Jordan and making him a believable character in it, amongst all of our favorite people. It's a good story. It's a really good story, and for anybody, especially who loves, that kind of animation. I mean, the Looney Tunes look fantastic in it, because they have to start giving them shading in a real world that they don't normally have. I can't say that they've ever looked that good. They look fantastic, because before it's just Merry Melodies kind of have a 2D look to them, some shading, not a lot. That's not what they're really about, but now they do when they're playing basketball on the court with Michael Jordan. Little things like that an animator is going to pick up on, but maybe not everybody else will, and everybody else is going to watch it and just say, oh my God, this looks amazing, even though they don't know why.
Sure. All right, well, we'll have to add it to the list. I mean, goodness knows we've got plenty of time right now.
Right.
Yeah. And that was also kind of, there's a very narrow window for those live action animation, or I guess hand-drawn animation films. We see it all the time now with CGI, obviously. But that was kind of the last few years of the animation, the hand-drawn animation renaissance before it started to die down a little bit and the computers took over. And that's sad because those are really great-looking films. Roger Rabbit.
That is a really good point that you bring up, because remember there was another movie that they came out with Brendan Fraser, and he was in what was that Looney Tune film called? Was it Back in Action? Looney Tunes Back in Action?
Back in Action. It pops up on my Netflix screen once in a while.
See, there you go. This would be an interesting study. Look at the year that Back in Action was released and compare it to a lot of the other films that were coming out at the time, and how many of them were CG oriented,
Yeah. I want to say that was the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003. So Disney was still starting to was still putting out the hand-drawn stuff, but it was not being received quite as well as obviously the predecessors from 10 years ago had. And meanwhile, Pixar is just tearing it up with Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo. DreamWorks put out Shrek, which was huge. And that kind of set the new paradigm for the industry. And it was around the same time when Disney announced, we're putting down our pencils. No more hand-drawn films.
Oof. That's always a hard thing to face, right? Whenever a job ends. I was down in Old Town San Diego, and I remember watching the lamps light up because they still have gas lamps down there, a little gas lamp district. I'm like, how cool! It. Some people might call that very antiquated, but the fact that this little part of town still has it. But then I thought, even before that, there was a lamplighter. They used to go up and down the streets, and that was their job. Somebody had to tell those lamplighters one day that they didn't have a job anymore. All in the name of progress.
All in the name of the electric light bulb.
As I'm sitting under a couple of them right now, so, and I got this little LED in front of me, so.
All right, well, the next time we do this, I fully expect candlelight with little man in overalls and a cap popping around, lighting them one by one.
Don't tempt me, sir.
Yeah. We'll do a Barry Lyndon themed episode. We'll talk about Barry Lyndon, and that'll be the tie-in.
I have candles, and I got me a pair of overalls. I got me an English newsboy cap that I can put on too, and just coming by to light the candles and the lamps, sir. Like, you know me.
And we'll just hope that our poor little webcams can keep up with the low lighting at the same rate as some of those lenses that Stanley Kubrick designed.
Yeah. By the way, this is all your fault.
This. What are we talking about? The lighting here, or
my setup right now that I have right now? Because we were in your living room recording some of those first TMIs, and I remember you pulling out lighting, and you were the first one who introduced me to any of that, you know. And now I've got a tripod, is what it is, that actually extends up, and then it's got the mount on it with with my phone, and then it's got the LED circle light connected to it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten into this if it wasn't for you. So I thank you, and I say
you're welcome
to you.
Well, boy, my glass is conspicuously missing a cartoon character, but same.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, here we go.
There we go. Cheers.
Marvel, it's got pens in it, but we'll take it.
Didn't we do we did Marvel in DC, you and I, before.
Yeah, because you're on the DC side of things, and
I love it.
Marvel side of things. And since then, I have read some of those classic Batman comics, the Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns, Long Halloween. Those are excellent books, truly excellent.
And since then, I now own all 22 films from the MCU Phase 1, 2, 3 collection. Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
There goes your life savings.
What? Speaking of which, you know, we were talking about what we're doing in our downtime for
bring it back
for quarantine. I know it's really sad that I'm not playing with my band anymore, and we just can't meet up, you know, to do rehearsals. But I have been doing a lot of focusing on my guitar work, is what it is. First of all, I have a pedal board. It's got a bunch of pedals on it that I hit the buttons, and they do all sorts of different things. You, the audience member, doesn't have to know what it does. But me, the guy up there on the stage, I know everything that's happening at every little moment of the song. I had a board that was yay big, and I had this idea that I would complete it and it would be done, right? So I complete it, and I feel really, really happy that I've got this whole board set up, and I'm telling myself, this is all I'm ever going to need. And another voice crept in there and said, yeah, it's all you might ever need, but what about what you want? So over this lockdown, I started building a brand new board full of slightly different pedals, and I had this light bulb. The board that I was using, I started building around my time with my old band, Undercover Beast.
Oh, wow.
And I built that board around that band. I am in a new band now. I'm now in Reminisce.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm playing slightly different things now. I need to build a new board that is going to suit this new band. Now, that takes time, and I'm not made of money, especially when I'm not working as much as I am. But if you're clever and you go on OfferUp or Craigslist or Reverb.com or eBay, you get lucky, you know. So little by little, I've been building a new board, and in building the new board, I've been playing so much and just playing until my fingers feel like they're going to fall off, but until my heart rate feels like I'm exhausted, because I don't work out or anything because the gyms are closed, and I just don't go running around because it's, you know, kind of crazy out there. But as far as staying focused indoors, that's one of the things that I've been working on.
That's terrific. And I've been working myself on some personal stuff, actually, that I just started a couple weeks ago. And I've had this idea for an illustration that I want to pitch to one of those 24-hour t-shirt companies, the Ripped Apparels and the T-Furies, where they sell some sort of pop culture satire t-shirt for 24 hours and then it's gone.
Nice.
And I won't disclose the idea because from my Google searches, so far I have, it seems like nobody has sort of thought of this pun yet. So I'm trying to keep it close to my chest for now, but hopefully someday it'll be done and I can share it with the world.
Awesome.
But I've been not doing a whole lot of productive work during this pandemic, aside from obviously what I do for my job, just a lot of walking around the neighborhood and catching Pokemon on my phone. And I'm like, okay, this is all fine and good, but I've got all this time. Why don't I do something with it? So I made a list of things I want to do to get this illustration done. And a big part of it is life drawing. So that's what I've started doing 2 weeks ago. I fire up the computer, I open lineofaction.org, which if you don't know what lineofaction.org is, it's a really great site with a lot of great models on it, and they offer timed sessions, so you can just flip through the photos and practice drawing models. And doesn't replace a live session, of course, but there's not a lot of those happening right now, so it's a fair substitute. So doing a lot of that, also just cracking out the anatomy books that I bought, 7 years ago when we were learning anatomy under Marshall Vandruff and starting to familiarize myself with bones and eventually the muscles. So it's kind of created this whole side initiative that actually I'm really excited about, of just being able to draw the human figure well, which is something I have always struggled with. So
You just got to keep drawing people, man. I mean,
so true.
I got a whole group of friends that could come up and vouch and say that there's been so many times where we've just been hanging out, and I tell them, like, can I get you to stand over here for a moment? They're like, yeah, dude, yeah, sure, what I have to do. I'm like, I want you to act like you're doing this. You've done it for me, I've done it for you a couple times, but like, I've never stopped doing that, and that's always been a thing that I've done ever since like high school. I've always asked friends, like, can I just see you like hold your hand this way for a second? Like, and I love those little dolls that I keep seeing advertised. They're like the little they're like the wooden ones, but they're made of plastic, I think, and like you can really like get in there and shape them all kinds of. But there's still something about having different shapes of bodies and different sizes of bodies for me to like look at and like see how their clothes look. And I still think there's a lot of study to be done there. And speaking of Marshall and Fullerton, it was the coolest thing, and tying it back to other illustrative works. So last year for Scary Farm, they started doing this thing called Into the Fog.
Okay.
It's an art gallery that we have at Scary Farm.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Can actually go to, and they've got all these local artists, some people who work for the park, some people who are fans of the park, and they've got your gallery up there. They've got your original work, and if you choose to sell prints, then you can sell prints of your work. And last year was my first year that I got an invitation to be in it.
Excellent.
And I sold a few prints as well. And right before it all started, right before Scary Farm started, I saw Marshall at the farm. And then I said, can you come with me really quick? I've got to show you something. And I showed him the gallery. And he starts looking at the wall of all of the artists there. And he says, oh my goodness, so-and-so. So-and-so, so-and-so. Like half of the people up there are his students.
Yep.
You know, like I don't know half of them, but he clearly knows everybody. That's wonderful. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And I was like, wow, isn't that cool? So, and flash forward to I was accepted into the second year, second year, not the gallery second year. So I am currently working on that, which I am also going to keep I'm anonymous as far as what I'm doing until the release date. But I am letting you know here that I was accepted into it, so I'm also working on that illustration.
Great. Well, congratulations. And that is the
Thanks, man.
best feeling in the world when you're doing work not just for yourself, but for a show or for a gig or somebody else. And you get to share your talent with the world.
I cannot tell you how gratifying it is to any artist I know it's hard to put yourself out there and put a price on your work. It's nerve-wracking. You're like, I have to decide how much I want to sell my own work for, but you have to, you know, and you just have to take a dive. And I put it up there. And one day I walked into the gallery and I looked at my little name, you know, with the artist, and I looked closely, and there was something new on there, a little green skull with the sold stamp across it. And I was like, somebody bought my piece? Like I was flipping out. But here's the thing, I don't know who bought it.
Huh. Maybe it was Marshall.
I don't know. I don't know who has my piece. I wish I could like say like, hey, like thank you or something, but like I don't know. I guess it's kind of how galleries work. You're not always gonna meet the people that actually buy your piece.
Yeah, they just disappear into the fog.
Oh, into the thoughts of our gallery. Yeah. I just wish I knew who. I want to say thank you. Like you thought my piece was good enough to buy. Like who? I wonder who. Somebody. One of these days, I'm gonna find out.
Isn't that just such a recurring theme among? I find that a lot of artists. You have a handful that have egos the size of the moon, and then those that aren't in that situation are just often very self-deprecating and I love this, but will anybody else love it? I don't think they will. I don't think it's good enough, and just all the ifs and the buts and the insecurities and all the stuff I've gone through and many others have gone through. And then when somebody actually says, "Oh wow, that's really great," it is amazing. Multiply times 100.
It's a great feeling.
Translates into a sale. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So.
Well, congrats again, dude. That's a milestone.
Thank you.
Is that the first sale? Anything?
On a professional level, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Great.
The first one. Because I've never, because I do so many other things for work, live performance and music, you know, and acting, directing, you know, I love drawing. But I always told myself I never wanted to do it in a profession or a capacity that was going to make me hate doing it. And so I always just saved it for me. And I think if you are that kind of an artist and you don't necessarily want to be like, let's say, doing something like cleanup animation or, you know, cell animation or anything that's going to require the over and over and over again, even though Phil would argue and say like you need that mileage, right? You know, you need to make sure that you've got that drawing and keep sketching every single day. I think that is important. But again, the cool thing about sketching every day is that's still for you. It's still absolutely for you. You got to make sure that when you find the job that's going to make you do it a lot, that it's a job that you absolutely love. And so if you are maybe not looking at doing that kind of work, perhaps galleries are the way for you to go as an artist, for anybody out there that's interested in it, because then you focus a lot of time on one piece, and then if it sells, maybe that's your incentive to maybe do something else, because then it's a little bit of you expressing yourself, and also what else does somebody out there maybe want to connect with that means a lot to me, but also means a lot to them.
There's so many options these days too. I mean, 20 years ago, if you wanted to sell a piece, you would have to paint it and frame it and put it in a show, and that's your one piece. And if you wanted to sell prints of it, you have to go through a whole process for that. And now you can paint something digitally and upload it to dozens of sites, and it'll print automatically and ship to whoever was interested in it. And it's so easy to do that takes a lot of the friction out and a lot of the middleman steps out, and makes it a lot easier to be an artist and to connect with the community that way. So
we could do a whole episode on prints and the way that works, because have you seen there's a biopic that Tim Burton did called Big Eyes?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't seen it.
I mean, it's a real story. The painter Keane, you know, she did the Children with the Big Eyes, and there's a moment there where people go in and they literally just take the flyers in the art gallery for them because one of the people realizes they just want the art. They don't even need the original one. And then they create prints. They create prints of the art. They're like, look,
Oh, wow.
guess what? We could sell a copy of the art and people will still buy it, you know? And that's something.
It's art for the middle class, if you will. So.
Ooh, prolific, sir.
Yes.
So in addition to music and, you know, my little bits of art, I got to say that I luckily have not been playing as many video games as I thought I was going to.
Good.
I was very afraid that I was going to just get lost in my back catalog of games, but I do have to say that I love being productive, and I love just being able to focus this much time on doing that. And I think that's a big leap that a lot of people are afraid to make, quitting the day job so that you can focus all of this time on the creative thing. Because I got to tell you, probably because I said earlier, I know things are kind of crazy out there, but I was doing all right, is probably because I'm focusing so much on being creative, and that's where I feel the happiest, you know? So that's probably a big reason why even during this lockdown, I feel as good as I do, because I get to draw and I get to play my music and I get to write. By the way, I'm also writing a play, you know?
Oh my goodness.
When you take that leap, you know, and say, this is what I'm going to do, like all the time, and find a way to make that work and find a way to sustain yourself on it, I think that's where people just feel the most free. At least I do. So it's given me a lot to think about when work starts up again. Do you follow me?
Absolutely. That's great. Well, it's an exciting time for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you produce out of this this time for however long we're in it.
However long, indeed. And hey, you are still doing a heck of a job, even though you were already working from home. The fact that you haven't stopped, you know, working your job, being the government and being essential. I mean, my hat goes off to you, because without you, things fall apart. Without all the people that have been working this entire time, everything would have already collapsed. So
it's absolutely true. Yeah, I'm glad we're uniting and people are helping each other out, and we're continuing to make it through it. So here's to us.
Here's to us. Hey. Well, hey, for whoever was watching this one, thank you so much. I know that we talked about a lot of different things, but hey, stay tuned, because we should be able to talk about a couple more subjects, right?
We're just getting started.
Yay! We're just getting started!
But we should put a cap on this one so people have a chance to go get a glass of milk and some cookies and do whatever they need to do. And we'll be back in the next episode.
See ya.